So tell me about Joti. Tell me about Joti TV, to be precise.
All right. So Joti TV came about. This was 2016, early 2017. Some of the guys that we worked with at TMT had thought to sit down and try and create like spec ads for different companies.
What's a spec ad?
It's like a specification. Like you do an advert that looks like an advert for another company, but it's not. They don't ask you to do it. You do it on your own terms and then just to show what you're thinking to the ad.
Okay.
And it's an unsolicited ad.
Okay. So it's basically like a different way to pitch.
Yes.
Okay.
But when we did that, I was like, guys, I don't think this is a good idea for our market. Other markets, yeah, like in here, whoever, they don't know you, they don't care about you. It doesn't work like that. The work of the agencies and so I was like, guys, no. But Joti was there, and because we had also worked with them on TMT. So they all left. Then Joti came back later because he saw at the time I had a studio because the meeting was done at my studio. So in Kinondoni. And then, so he told me what he wanted. He had this DVD of jokes and stuff he had recorded earlier, but he wanted to re-record the audio because it wasn't very good. So we had to redub it for him. So I did it. But then after we spoke and everything, I was like, there's an opportunity here. And there's this technology. Like YouTube at the time was already mature, but it was not as popular in Tanzania. You know what I'm saying? YouTube in general was very mature, but in Tanzania, it was starting to enter that flow. We had Miladayo. We had a bit of, not all the artists were posting their videos on YouTube, but we had Vivo or Vevo. But people were still going to Channel Low at the time, musicians. Comedy was not even a thing. So I was like, there's this thing. And I was thinking of that. I already opened up my own channel. I was like, let's try this out. So it was like, all right, cool. Like, let's start with these ones. So we put up like 2 of them and I was like, no, this sucks. This is not the standard that I'm operating in.
Okay, 2 what, videos?
Yeah, 2 videos from the DVD.
Oh, okay.
From the DVD. And I was like, nah, this sucks. So I was like, lesson learned from my experience in Mwanza was get a contract because people don't honor their contracts. When you're starting out, everybody's hunky-dory. But when things change and shit hits the fan, people tend to become very different.
Yeah.
So hindsight is 2020. So we went to a lawyer. We drew up a contract. He was getting 60% of the revenue. I was getting 40%. I was getting 50% ownership. He was getting 50%. So we both owned the content that I was producing. One thing I wish I knew at the time was, and that wouldn't have fit in that contract, but most of the money, when you produce content, the money doesn't come from the content.
No.
It comes from secondary sources.
Yes, so the content becomes a platform. It's like events. For a lot of people, the event is a platform. Yes. And then the money doesn't come from the event, it comes from...
So when we were starting, we did not know that we're actually generating income for his other people. Seki and all these other guys. But I was like, we're creating the value because at the time, it was starting to dip. So we got into the contract, we started producing. And initially he was supposed to write. But then we realized very quickly he was copying some of the ideas from other places. And I was like, okay, even if you have inspired ideas, we need to take it to another level. So I was like, all right, everybody stop. So we shot these 2 episodes. They look visually interesting, but the concept is weak. It's been done before, this is weak. So I was like, I need to come up with a schema, like a method, a process again. So I started research. Then there are these videos on YouTube about Chuck Taylor. Was it Chuck Taylor, the guy who did Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny, and all these guys researched about that and how jokes work. And I'd dabbled in comedy for a while, but I did not understand till that time. And this thing I applied, it's basic script scripting, but with jokes, it's a bit different.
Speaking about dabbling in comedy, so I had a conversation with Evans on another episode of Msasa, and he was explaining to us how one of his very, very early, if not first, comedy show.
Yes.
But anyway,
I did. Okay, so I have done a lot of firsts again. yes. I had forgotten when I was at Samakti with Nani. I pushed him to really do that. He was one of the people who inspired me as well. And I pushed him to do that show, and his trousers ripped in that particular episode, and he had to wear a kanga. Yeah, so there's that.
Yeah.
So we did that, and with that experience and all those things, and then we sat. So I came up with that framework where there's a setup and there's the punchline. But then how does the punchline work? So everybody thinks about the setup, the hook, the setup, the punchline. So you got to hook somebody in. Got to set it up and come up with a punchline.
Mm-hmm.
But the best way to do a punchline is to do something that people are not expecting.
Yeah.
So it was a very simple framework. And after applying that framework is when Joti TV started gaining momentum. Because people were always expecting this, and we just on a complete tangent, and everybody was like, what are you guys thinking? And then then later on I was like, guys, our comedy is a bit too dry, let's layer it. And we started putting some layered things, and that really gained momentum because of the layering. And by the way, Joti is a great actor. If you give him material, oh my God, I think that was like lightning in a bottle. That was one of it was very fulfilling, creatively. Not financially,